post on our channel. Oh, and there's Brad just in time.
Brad.
Perfect. Well, we don't have a lot on the agenda today because I really wanted to open the floor to Emily, who is going to share a little bit about how the tech carts are going at Cushing Community School. And just as a reminder, we got the tech carts this year through a grant. It was the GEER grant that came through the state of Maine. And basically, I think they opened it maybe in late October and said any school that is interested in having these tech carts, you can apply. We will have, for every 100 students, we will give you a tech cart. And we qualified so that we could have 2 tech carts per building. And we had 3 different options. We went with the 2 options that did not require a yearly license because Maine was only going to pay for the license for 1 year, and then the district would have to pick up the tab. So rather than having an ongoing cost, we went for what we could fully purchase just within the scope of what the grant would cover. So each tech cart was about $5,000. So Emily has about $10,000 worth of new tech at Cushing Community School, and she's going to provide you guys with some context. And then certainly if you have any follow-up questions about how she's using them or more broadly about the grant, we can certainly talk further. So Emily, I will give you the floor. And I think I might also need to make you co-host so that you can.
I already see the share screen button, so
I can, perfect.
Yeah, go ahead and do that. All right. Oh, to share my computer audio. Sorry.
All right. And Emily Stoddard is tech integrator at Cushing Community School.
Hang on. When I did that, I didn't hear anything you just said, Stephanie. Sorry. Can you say that again?
Yes. No, I just said that Emily Stoddard is our tech integrator for Cushing Community School.
All right. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm not going to do it. It messed up my audio. So we will do that. All right. Round 2. So yeah, so I already got a good introduction. I am the tech integrator at Cushing Community School. I'm also the librarian, and it's my 2nd year down here. Yeah, and so real quick, I wasn't sure how much you guys knew about the carts. This is kind of from my end. I am part of the Maine Teaches CS network thing. We were allowed to join that if we wanted to. And so this is like from that end of it. So we got these mobile labs purchased through that grant. We have 3 different things, but I guess it's 2 carts. We have, well, I'll get into that later, but we've got our labs. All of the schools, I believe in RSU13 have these 3 labs. And yeah, so those were purchased for any school in Maine that wanted it, I think, or that qualified. And then there's this professional development network that I'm part of. And the goal of that is to create a statewide repository of like lesson plans and ideas for tech integrators and teachers who want to integrate tech. And really the goal of all of it is for universal access to computer science education for Maine students. Oop. There we go. So here are 3 labs. I said we had 3 labs. We have, I guess, 2 labs, 3 things. So the first I'll tell you about is the Lego Spike Prime, which is our robotics kit. And then the other 2 are part of our coding kits. And so those are Sphero bolts and Sphero engines. And here's a quick overview. Let's see, get to my notes here. I couldn't figure out how to do the notes the right way. All right, so yeah, here's a quick overview of the Lego Spike robots and the components that come. We have 12 of these tubs. This is just one of them. But some of the cooler things that I wanted to tell you about are the programmable light matrix, which you can kind of see here. That's like the brains of the operation. And then there are, I didn't get a great picture of these, so I'm actually going to go back. these are all electric motors. So these are motors, and then these are sensors of light and color. And I think there's a camera in there too. They also come with, besides the physical things, it also comes with an iPad app that the kids can use. And that uses a block coding language that's pretty standard for kids coding these days, coding and robotics. And that'll really get them ready for actually typing their own code someday. It's a really smooth transition. They come with lesson plans and stuff for the teachers. And the kits that we got, I'm not sure what happened, but the ones that were available for us were the grades 6 through 8. And so the teachers will have to do a little adaptation to make it down to 4th and 5th grade, but it's totally doable.
Yeah, I can chime in there really quick, Emily.
Yeah.
Basically, once schools jump through all of the hoops to be able to make the purchase, we were told there would be no issues with any of the vendors that we're working with. And when we reached out to Lego to make our purchase, they said, oh, shoot, we're really sorry, but we don't have any of the elementary versions anymore. You can order the older versions, or you can wait and you can order the elementary version. But if we were to do that, the grant would not have paid. It would have been January that we could place the order, and we were required to place the order in December. So unfortunately, we had to go with the one for older students.
I think it's better to have it more complicated and kind of simplify it anyway. So that's probably a good thing. So let's see. So just real quickly, just the lesson plans that come with it. The other two labs have like specific actual lesson plans for a teacher to teach, and then a student on the other side of it. These are a lot more sort of not fully independent activities, but they're mostly set up for the kids as far as I've seen. And it can be independent, but it can be group in a class as well. Basically, there's this part that is very guided. And so it teaches you how to build something. It takes you step by step through, for example, building a machine that's like buggy, right? And so it intentionally gives you bad instructions. And then the second half of the activity is basically fixing the machine that they gave you. Another example might be having them build a walking machine that kind of walks, but not really. And then each group goes off and tries to make it better than their neighbors, and then they race the machines. We have not gotten into the Lego stuff at Cushing yet. And I asked the other schools and they haven't either, but I did build a little car for you guys to see, just so you can get a sense of like what it looks like. And this over here is just a look at what the code is that's actually running this car. And this was actually something that it came with. It kind of walked me through that. So that was pretty cool. All right. Were there any questions about the Lego things before I keep moving?
Very awesome.
All right. So the next thing is the Sphero bolts, which are the first half of our coding lab. These are for 4th and 5th graders at our school. I mean, there's nothing that says you couldn't do it with younger, but I've been using them with our 4th and 5th graders. They are robots also, but there's this subtle difference between the robotics lab and the coding lab. And these are mainly about the code that's being sent to the robot versus the Legos. It's more about the actual pieces doing what they should and not bumping into themselves and stuff like that. So that's sort of the difference. Here they are. And it's kind of hard to get a sense of scale, but these are the little robots in their charging case. We have 15 of them, and they're about the size of a baseball. The bolts come with really detailed lesson plans for the teachers to follow, and they are in a clear progression from like introducing bare bones to actually like solving some pretty complex stuff. And these also use the block coding language that kids are using these days. And what else did I want to tell you about it? Yeah, these are used, the kids send code to these through Bluetooth. And then when they put them back in the case, this is really neat and it's good for a classroom use. They put them back in the case and the robot forgets everything so that you don't have to try and figure out which of these completely blank balls you put back in that was yours, you know.
So they access the app on their iPad, the one they use,
Yes.
and program it that way and then run it through Bluetooth.
Yep, exactly. And then every time
Cool.
they pick up a new Sphero, they can just send that code to that new Sphero.
Okay.
Yeah. These have, and I think there's a better, yep, you can see better here. These have a lot of like data collection sensors. They've got a gyroscope, an accelerometer, a compass, a bunch of other stuff, and a little matrix up on the top. These are really fun to watch. They're very futuristic. They roll all over the place. They also came with these really cool mats. This is one of them. This is the outer space one. And these are the other three. These are awesome because they're super adaptable to just like anything you might want to do with them. Like this one up here, we've done a few different activities with. Basically, it comes with its own challenge, but you could also just do your own thing. So like I had the kids, like for example, I had a student start on 2 and they'd put their Sphero there and I wanted them to code getting around all these defenders and making a goal into the blue goal. And so they had to, map that path. We've also done like math problems. So you start at the 3 and then you go to the 7 and you have to end at the 10. So they're so detailed. There's a ton of stuff you can do with them.
Is that a golf thing on the side I saw?
Yes, there's a golf course and you
Oh,
can use them as little golf balls. And there's like,
oh,
here's the tee and here's the hole. Yeah, it's really awesome. Very rich.
yeah. As a golfer, that looks really cool.
Yeah. And here's an example of one of our, you guys can't see the bubble of people, right? This is a fully clear screen. Okay.
A video that hasn't started yet.
Right. Okay. Here's one of our 5th graders. Here's his code that he wrote. I had the kids do basically turn their Sphero into a city bus. You know how city buses have to display where they're going next. So they had to start out somewhere and then scroll where they were going and then actually go there. And it took a lot, but this is one of our few kids that like got through the whole thing in one session. And I'll have them move to a different mat and try it again on a different mat next time while the kids finish up on their original one. Let's see how the audio does.
What is your plan for it?
My plan is for people to go to the airport, then to the library, then go see the football game and maybe check out the local zoo.
Perfect. Let's see it.
You can see the words on the little screen there. Into the zoo. And they've also got, besides words, they've also got little emojis. You can see he chose a little lion emoji to show that they were at the zoo.
That is really cool. Really
Yeah.
cool.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm just like so impressed that, he's the only one that finished, but they all are really good at picking up on this and like getting started on it and stuff. It's the little sponge brains are so good at it. The neat thing that I wanted to point out is that this kid could actually tell me what it should do. Because a lot of times it's fun to just click and drag the blocks onto the screen and see what happens. But I really try to get him to tell me what it's going to do, to have a little accountability there. And a lot of them are good at that. All right. The last and cutest robot is the Sphero Indy, which is a little car. And this is for the kids. This is also coding, but it's a lot more abstract, and it's what we call unplugged coding. And so it doesn't require an iPad. And this is what we use for the K3 kids. So here they are. You can see them. They're in their little charging case. They're face up. Basically, these work by they have a little color sensor on the bottom of them, and they can read what color they're on. And these are the tiles that they drive over. As far as the kits, we have 8 of these little cases and 8 cars. So we usually double up. And we've also got a bunch of challenge cards for each kid. I think there's 15 challenge cards. And this also comes with the lesson plan book that does the same thing. It starts out at square one and goes all the way through. And here's an example of a kindergartner solving a challenge card. And something cool that happens here is that So basically, first I'll tell you what he should be doing. He's supposed to start on this green here and moving this way. And he's supposed to put a right angle card here. So I don't think I said that. The colors are each tied to a command. So the command for pink is turn left 90 degrees. So he's supposed to, according to the challenge card, be putting a pink tile here to make Indy turn 90 degrees. But he does something different, which is kind of fun.
Where are you gonna put that? Oh, you're gonna put orange there?
So that's the 45-degree left card that he decided to use.
All right, Hudson, you think you've solved it?
Have to put one on best too.
Yeah. All right, here he goes.
Does a little dance. The commands that each of these colors come with are like pre-written, and there's a stop block, which just makes him stop. And then there's the purple celebration block. So we always use the purple celebration block at the end.
That's the dance.
Yeah, the little spin around dance.
Yeah.
Could you hear the singing of it? It's pretty faint. You could hear it. Yeah.
All
All right. Here's the other kindergartner. She's doing the same thing, but she had.
Are you
a little more
sure that the
trouble.
blue will work? Or are you testing it right now? Okay, go ahead and test it. That's a good idea. Did it work? What are we gonna do different?
I sped it up because we did a lot of talking here. She's going through all these. We've done a lot of exploration of
All
trying
right,
to
now
figure out
Bella, are
what each
you
color
sure
does.
this will work? Are we testing still? Testing, okay, good.
There we go. Mm.
She was a good sport. She was very camera shy. All right. And the last video of the Indy that I'll show you is a third grader. So I'm asking a lot more of the third graders here. I think, well, let's count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 7 colors. There's 8 colors altogether, but you can only have one stop block. And my challenge for the third graders most recently was to use all of them and have him drive over every single one. And that kind of forces him to not just slap down an array of tiles and see what he does. It really makes him think about it and test it out and test different pathways and stuff. And he's going to show us this little, I call it their little cheat sheet, but it basically reminds them what direction each color has them turn, because that's really tough, the left and right. And he does a good job of explaining it. So
This is me trying to do all of the tile challenge.
And can you show us your cheat sheet and how it helped?
So the cheat sheet, I used the green that started it off. Then I used the blue that made it turn here. And then when I faced it this way, it turned over here. And then the orange turns that way. Then this is the tricky part. You thought it was going to go this way, but it was going this way in all. So if you do another turn, I'll have to go this way.
Gotcha. Nice work.
yeah, so we talked a lot about Indy's perspective and what's right for Indy and what's left for Indy versus what's right for us and left for us. So I was glad he was using it that way. Yeah, and so just to finish it up, I'll just tell you some opportunities, because the whole idea is not for them to just play with the robots, as fun as that is, and it's still really valuable learning, but the idea is to get these into classrooms and not just library class. And I got some cool ideas from that network. We're going to be doing like twice a week meetings. And I asked them what they've been doing. And so some people have used Bolt to tell a story by changing its lights and behavior. and like basically pretending it's a character. They've 3D printed a sled to like pull around with the bolt as kind of like an engine.
Who's
And-
they?
Sorry, these are other teachers that are also doing the kind of professional development network meetings, workshops that I've been doing.
Yep.
And so we kind of did like a little breakout room and we were talking about what we've been doing.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So using them as like an engine, just kind of thinking outside the box to like drag something around and see how much friction and inertia, and 3D printing obstacles to put on those activity mats. So somebody put like a ramp on the golf course and you have to get a little speed
Oh, yeah.
over the ramp and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So that's all I had planned to tell you guys. But if you had any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
That's really cool. And your presentation's a great presentation, by the way, and putting all that together. But it's just wonderful that you guys got this grant and the work that went into getting it and putting it together. And it's just great opportunities for our students. It's wonderful. Thank you.
We're so lucky to have them. It's great. I think a lot of kids in other states are not getting these opportunities, and Maine's kind of at the head of it. So it's really
Yeah,
neat.
okay. Yeah, good.
Yeah, I totally agree. I guess my question is, how is this integrated into other aspects of the curriculum? Are teachers able to have this sort of as a segue to other types of learning, other disciplines? I'd love to see it not just sort of as a silo of learning, but something that's fully integrated across different elements of each student's experience.
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually kind of the idea of those workshops that I've been taking, because so every school that got these, they had the opportunity to join in on these, but a lot of them didn't, and that's totally fine. The ones that did go, we're going to kind of work together to create, they call them artifacts, I think, and sort of resources for our peers and people around the state to do that. So right now we're kind of in the infancy of all that. I think most schools have left these with the integrators to just kind of get comfortable with and teach the kids some of the fundamentals. Need to be some. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now.
Yeah.
There will need to be explicit teaching, like separate from the lesson, because there's a lot that goes into these. But yeah, that's the goal. Right now, it's just been library class at our school, at least. But there's definitely opportunities, and we're going to put together, there's going to be like a statewide repository of some kind. I'm interested to see what shape that takes. I don't fully know just yet, but we'll get something together. That's going to wrap up in August, all that work.
So the statewide repository will be ways that teachers are fully integrating the technology into the Maine state standards and so forth.
Yeah. Yep. And with a focus on like authentic integration, that's not just, let's play with the robots today, like how is it actually helping add to the lesson and, elevating it to a new level that it couldn't have done before. Yeah,
that's great. Yeah, I'd be curious to hear where that's being done really successfully, and maybe thinking about professional development so that this type of learning is, fully integrated in, and it can augment, other key objectives for the learning in other disciplines. Yeah. Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've heard about the carts, for a little bit, and Stephanie, your great work to get this grant funding, but now it's just really cool to see it in action, to really understand, because I've seen those photographs a few times before, and I was like, I'm not sure, but it's really cool to see it in action.
Yeah, I think, Emily, thank you so much. You did such a great job explaining. I wish we had more, to be honest. I think at a small school, it's probably sufficient for the class sizes that you have, Emily, but I do worry, like at South School got the same number of carts that Cushing got. And if you're wanting to think about ways to integrate that, let's say with maybe curriculum around problem solving in a kindergarten classroom, there's going to be a lot of sharing that would have to go on because there's 3 kindergartens at South School. So just in terms of like the logistics of sharing those pieces, if you want equity within the curriculum and not just, the teachers that are really engaged and want to be using some of their hands-on pieces.
Definitely. Yeah. I think that would be very valuable because the indies, there's only 8 of them. And so even in this small setting, we're having to share. And the kids are good sports about it, but it would be fun if there were more. I think it would be cool to have, since there's 3, we could do like a trimester based thing where we send all of them to one place and then, rotate and stuff like that. I'd be totally open to that. We haven't really talked about that with the integrators, but I could bring it to them definitely.
How are the parents responding? Have you had any response from them?
I really haven't had too much response from them. I think I know a few kids have asked me for information about Indy and where they can buy one. And if they can ask somebody at home to buy them one. Yeah, parents haven't really said much about it. I think the kids are really excited about it though.
Can you take us out of screen share mode, please, so we can
Oh,
see
yes,
bigger us's? Thank you.
Other questions for Emily or for me about the grant?
I'm just really impressed. I know when my kids were little, they used Lego a lot, and they were in the era before Lego came in kits where you built the thing that was on the box. They had to use their imaginations. And I love how imaginative this can be for kids. And it's like the little robots are almost like fidget spinners in a way. The kids are fascinated by them. And I think that fascination is going to lead to higher levels of learning. And I'm interested in something you said, Emily, about the storytelling aspect of it. And I think it has a lot of possibility there for English language arts, especially at the younger grades, where they learn about aspects of storytelling while they're getting their little robot to the various places where a chapter of the story will happen. So I think it's fantastic. We're very blessed, and thanks, Stephanie, for your work in getting the grant for us. And
That's right.
I think it's smart of you to join that network.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, I think one other thing I want to add to that is we're starting small, exploring, especially when we can use grant funds in order to do that and be creative and innovative. And I think one other barrier for teachers using these more in the classroom are the massive laundry list of standards that they feel that they need to cover because it's been such a focus for so long. I am not totally sure. Maybe I need to do a little more homework when I actually have time to look into this. I'm not totally sure the direction that the state is going with this level of focus on the standards and how much effort they're going to start putting into breaking down some of the silos like what you're talking about, Brad. I think there is an effort there. They've not been very transparent about that at the moment, but there are not subject area liaisons anymore. There is like a more interdisciplinary, innovative team, but nobody quite knows what that team is doing right now or what they're accomplishing. So I don't know what their big vision is, but if we can maybe get a little pressure taken off all of these standards, because you would think looking at this coding, this is science and math and technology, but when you actually look at the science standards, it doesn't really align to any of them. It's an engineering practice, but if you're trying to get through the alignment of the next gen science standards within your classroom, it doesn't make a great fit. So I think that's one of the challenges of how can we, incorporate this more into the broader curriculum and not just have it sort of be this side thing, because there's a lot of great skills to be learned with problem solving and engineering. So I think that's one of the areas that we need to explore a little bit more, but we like the much broader we like education in general.
That's something that came up in one of the meetings was just like the idea of all this, because it's a group of teachers. And so a lot of people aren't technology integrators. They're just tech people in their building. And that's been a big focus, is like, we don't want another thing that we have to squeeze in. We want it to be something that can be on top of everything that we already have going, that can like fit in seamlessly. So yeah, definitely.
Great. Any other final questions for us?
I didn't have a question, but I just wanted to thank Emily for sharing that information today. I mean, I think it looks good. You haven't really had the materials for all that long. I love the idea of interdisciplinary units and, you know, sharing of materials with the larger schools. I think that'll all develop, but good job so far, and thank you.
Thank you.
I love the videos of the kids. Anytime we
Yeah.
see the kids actuating
Yeah.
what we provide for them is a
Yeah.
good thing. And it's particularly good during budget season, when we prove to the public that we are doing what we say we are doing and more.
Yeah, it's like a turbocharge to the system, because we don't often get to see students doing what they do. So anytime that we do is such a good feeling, because, you know, you're there every day, you do it every day. So Carol's right. It's great to see those videos. It's just great.
Yeah, bring them on.
Well, I know Esther up at the high school has been using them with her life skills students, and she has some cool videos. I can ask her to send them to you guys if you'd like.
Oh,
That'd be
yeah.
great.
Yeah.
That'd be great. That's a great idea. Use them with life skills. That's a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But can it fold my laundry?
Nope. Nope. You're stuck with that.
Someday. All
That
right.
is
Well,
too bad.
should I hang around for the rest of it, or shall I let you guys?
Oh, you are released. Thank you so much, Emily. Thank you
All
so
right.
much for putting all that time and energy into that presentation.
Thank you for having me, guys. I'll see you later.
Thank you. Bye.
And we've got to talk about next meeting. And I do have one other thing that I want to share with you guys, just sort of looking ahead about meetings. And I was sort of mapping out between now and the end of the year. So I had our April meeting, revisiting pathways. There's a lot of energy right now around this pathways piece. Molly and I presented to, well, mostly Molly presented to the city council a couple of weeks ago, the Rockland City Council.
I saw that. You guys did a great job. I happened because my wife was on it for some other. So yeah, I
Yes,
did a great
yes.
job.
Yeah, thank you. And again, mostly Molly did the presentation, but since then she's also been partnering with the leader of Main Street. I'm not going to remember his name off the top of my head, David Gogol, maybe. But he has a lot of energy around this idea of the city as a campus, and has been having some great conversations. So I don't want to take up too much of Molly's time and make her come back in and do another presentation with us, but I will pull a lot of information from her that I can share with you guys and give you another update about pathways and really where we want to go from there. There's a couple of pieces that we want to also pull into the middle school in terms of trying to provide some added engagement, especially for some of our most at-risk students. And Molly's got some great ideas around that as well. So we will revisit the pathways piece in April. In May, I wanted to have the focus be on relationships again. I don't have a specific topic for that yet. And then proficiencies in June, I thought I had this planned perfectly, because June is usually when I go through all of the data. And typically we receive our NUIA data, which is now the same as our MEA data. They're the same assessment. We usually receive those results like the day after the students take them, which is why we've liked NUIA so much. Unfortunately, now that this is the state assessment and is the new official state assessment, the state is moving to a through-year assessment with NUIA. So that basically just means NUIA is partnering with them to also develop some proficiency cut scores and questions that are on grade level, so that we're not only determining growth of students and their overall proficiency, but also how that aligns with grade level. because they're doing that, we're not going to have results until probably late July, they said.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's really unfortunate. It sort of reminds me of back to the MEA days where they say we will get them in September and we don't get them until November, and then we really can't do anything with that data. So that's unfortunate. I do hope that they arrive in July, because we also have to do some of our grant writing based off of setting those goals and writing our performance reports. But I will not have any growth data to share with you in June for except maybe second grade and maybe ninth grade, because those are the two assessments that Maine isn't adjusting, and we're just partnering with NUIA for those, but that's not going to tell us all that much either. So, so proficiency wise in June, I think we certainly can talk about topics for relationships in May that you guys might want to hear a little bit more about, and then proficiency in June, if there are topics that you might want to hear a little bit more about. Carol, I know you emailed today about writing, so if there's anything specific that you want me to prepare, I'm happy to do that. And then I can also go over some of our pilot data in June as well, and just share next steps around that piece with the bookworms pilot. But otherwise, if there's anything else specific that you want me to prepare, we can have that discussion.
Here's a question. Wasn't there like a grade that we noticed through and after COVID that their numbers were really, they were struggling, like third grade this year, maybe?
Fifth grade.
Fifth grade this year.
Fifth grade this year.
So is it the theory that in third grade, things were so tough for them that their learning was slowed? Is that the way to put it?
Yes. So when they were in second grade, when we did emergency learning,
Okay,
and
right.
we're not introducing new learning when we first started remote learning. Remember, we didn't automatically into like everything is brand new.
Yeah.
We needed to get the iPads out to students and the hotspots, and
Right.
and we had to rework some of the IEPs. So there was a little bit of lag time there. And then as teachers started introducing new material, those students that were really engaged in at-home learning didn't really miss too much, but we know that not all of our students were truly engaged. And because that end of the second grade and early third grade is really focused on shoring up those skills in order to start all four of the like addition, subtraction, division, and multiplication. Division and multiplication are introduced for the first time in using those terms in third grade.
Okay.
Not the concept itself, but it builds up over time.
Yep.
So without that strong foundation ending second grade into third grade, it created some issues for those students. And yes, they have continued to lag further behind than other grade levels, but their growth has been about the same as other grade levels.
Okay.
It just hasn't, because their scores dropped when everybody else makes growth, their growth is their proficiency levels are higher. Fifth grade is making the same amount of growth, and as fourth graders, they made about the same amount of growth. They just haven't made enough growth to catch up to where we would want them to be in terms of, being about on par where the other classes are.
Okay. Was it only in math, or was it in reading too, or?
It was primarily in math. That was
Okay.
the biggest red flag. Fourth grade is the other group that in math and reading, there were some deficiencies, but they have closed the majority of those gaps as a class. But I do have to say, there are individuals that have not closed the gap. So what we typically see is the children, and this is true for middle and high schoolers that were affected by the hybrid learning or the hybrid schedule. Some days were remote and some days they were in. If they were not engaged, their scores have been affected more than their peers.
Okay.
So it really goes back to that equity piece. Maybe what it goes back to also, I don't really want to open a can of worms today, but maybe just put it in the back of your mind, is remote learning days. I know that we have a significant number of snow days to make up, and sometimes we are asked, and you may receive emails or have been asked, why are we not doing remote learning days? I think that is a broader conversation that we should talk about at some point, but I worry a little bit about the equity of what education and instruction looks like on those kinds of days.
Yeah.
And my preference truly is that we have students in person, then expecting that a remote day is really making up for the instruction, you know, and even the social scenarios that they're missing when they're at school. So I know that June 27th doesn't sound great to a lot of people, but I think there's a lot to be said for having students in school and what we provide and the equitable nature of that.
I
Yeah, we're
100%
gonna get
agree.
blowback, but I think we have to kind of stand firm on the in-person learning. Because when we have our students in school, we have a captive audience. When they're remote, we capture some and we lose some. So.
Yeah.
You just have to be positive about the benefits of being in person.
Brad, what do you think?
We don't have to worry about it next year because I crafted the calendar in such a way that without any snow days, the last day of school is June 7th. But we can have 5 snow days and we won't be that late in June next year.
Well, there's the carrot.
Do we start before Labor Day?
We're gonna start, we front loaded our professional development days, so we're packing more instructional time into the year instead of breaking it up with PD days. As remember that we've also added a new holiday, which is Juneteenth. And then last year we added, or this year we added an extra vacation day in before Thanksgiving. As upon request of 2 other school districts, I was not in favor of it, but when we do these calendars, we have to coordinate it with Camden and SAD 40. So that's why that got in there. And I vehemently opposed re-adding it for next year, so it's not in there. You'd have to do a lot of convincing to me to make me believe that there's a tremendous amount of efficacy in these so-called remote days. When I hear my fellow superintendents talk about it, the only thing I hear them say is, oh, we put in remote days, so it's saving us a lot of snow days this year. I don't hear anything about how they're effective.
Yeah, I do worry a lot about that. And I have seen some of the work that is expected of students on remote days. And I just worry about the continuity of instruction. I have a lot of concerns, but I mean, again, that's something we could certainly revisit at the beginning of next year.
I'll tell you go ahead, Brad. Did you want to talk?
No, go ahead.
I think the way you spell remote days is Joke. I just can't imagine anybody anywhere. It's just like, yeah, it sounds good, but joke. And
Oh.
it's better for kids, like you said, Stephanie, to be in person with their peers and their teachers. It's not even close. Yeah.
I think about the kids who are from dysfunctional homes and, low socioeconomic status. And, how much support are they going to have for the work that they're trying to do at home, right? It's at best. I mean, some of these kids, it's almost impossible for them even to do homework, let alone a remote day. So to me, that brings up a huge question of equity.
I don't know even how do you prepare teachers for that? Like, what do? They wake up at 5:15 and they hear the notice from you, John. They like somehow put together something online that somehow students are going to consume and get done by I don't even know how you do it.
I don't even want to think about that, Lauren. I'm trying to figure out whether we're going to have school or not how I can motivate teachers to put
Yeah, I just
plans together.
Joke, man.
It's a royal pain. It really is. I just can't even wrap my head around it.
Yeah.
When remote learning online classes started back in the early 80s, one of the things that was a misconception was that online learning is easier. And we're talking about even college kids. So I'm talking about college kids here. But what wasn't known or understood at the time was that it takes so much self-motivation and discipline to do an online class. Well, we can't ask a third grader to have that kind of discipline and be successful. So I agree with you, Lauren, JOKE. It's just, we did it because we had to do it during COVID.
Yeah.
But
right.
we don't have to do it and we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, and I mean, just going back to our data, I just worry about the divide that we see in our students, and it is glaring when you look at individual kids. I think as a
Yes.
whole, you know, most of our grade levels haven't been severely impacted aside from that 5th grade group in math. But when you start digging into individual students, it is clear that students make more gains when they are in school. Attendance is another thing that affects that. I mean, it's not just the remote schooling, it's, you know, they're all really tied pretty closely together. But I think some of the things that COVID has opened our eyes to are that it's really, our time in school with kids is critical. It's really important that they be there at school with their teachers receiving instruction.
And we've known that a long time about attendance. We've complained about that for years. So it's not a hard jump to.
On the
No.
topic of this year, is June 27th our last day?
It is right now.
Okay, so John, I think of you as like a coach on the sidelines. And you're entering the 4th quarter and your team is kind of tired. Like, how do you motivate them, right? I mean, if I'm a teacher and it turns into June, typically I'm thinking, all right, we're going to finish out the year and students start thinking about summer and what they're going to do. This year, it's not. I mean, like if next year, June 7th is the projected last day and this year, June 27th, I mean, how's their motivation going to be? Everybody's, teachers and students, as get into June, you got like 27 more days of, you know, the calendar.
So first of all, we usually have 5 snow days in any given year. I mean, I can't remember. I think there was one year where we had 3, but that was the exception rather than the rule. So what the superintendent does is I wait until it seems like there's almost no possibility of another snow day. And then I'll talk to my buddies at the DOE and see if I can get a couple of them waived.
Yep.
I mean, that's just practical stuff. And I don't do that lightly, but remember one of those days, we had so many staff out, we couldn't even run the programs. That wasn't a weather day. That was just a sick day for everybody.
So the 27th right now is a Tuesday. So maybe you can get a couple shaved off. So the 23rd is the actual last day.
Yeah, maybe. I guess we'll see. I mean, I'm not,
Okay.
in saying that, I'm not a real fan of just disposing of days for the sake of doing it, but at some level, you got to balance, as you say, the motivation of people. Plus families start to take off and teachers have other jobs but we always pretty much land on our feet. But we'll figure something out.
I'm going to be an armchair educational psychologist for a second and say that if we were in school the 26th and 27th, not a lot of learning would happen. It's just that Monday and Tuesday of that week. It's like, so I hope we can finish the 23rd if the DOE allows us. That would be quite good, I think.
I mean, I think your point, Lauren, is an important one, that, you know, teachers are going to be tired and obviously students are going to be tired. I think the one thing to consider, maybe the last week or maybe the last couple of weeks, whatever they might be, would be to change gears a little bit, do some project-based learning, and maybe do some experiential learning, maybe do things that are outside, collaborative learning projects, you know, things that are going to maybe engage students in a different way that they're not necessarily used to, just sort of going about the same old curriculum, the same thing when it's beautiful outside, when they feel like they shouldn't be in a school. You got to change something around if you're going to have any hope of learning. I wouldn't say just the last couple of days, I'd say the last couple of weeks.
Okay.
So maybe, you know, some of the professional development or some of the conversations that can take place among your senior leadership team could be geared now to planning what those last couple of weeks could look like, and encouraging teachers to think a little bit more creatively. Maybe they do some things where there's some sort of element of moving up so that teachers get, students get a chance to see what the next grade or next level of learning or next set of curricular challenges are going to be. Or, you know, I really feel like if we can get kids outside and do things outside that are more observational based. Lauren and I were just recently at the opening for the Leaps of Imagination show. As you guys know, that work that Nancy does with that organization really does a lot of stuff that's really outside of the traditional curriculum that really gets kids to observe and really engages kids on a deep level with learning through observations of nature. So maybe there's some collaborations that can be done with other organizations, but I think some of that stuff could be planned now, because we know that even by the time they get to June 7th or June 10th or June 12th, kids are going to be checked out unless we do something a little bit differently.
And maybe some kind of moratorium on homework. So,
No,
so that the kids go home at the end of the school day.
that's not what I'm saying, Carol, at all.
No, I'm just saying that could be an aspect.
Because homework has a bad, bad connotation because there's so much bad homework out there, but not necessarily all homework is bad. I think, if you're engaging kids and they want to do the work outside of school, that's great. If it's just busy work, then I agree with you. But I guess my main point is that we really need to think about shifting gears a little bit and getting a different mindset for that instruction so that we don't lose those last couple of weeks and we just don't go through the motions.
I can tell you from experience that principals and teachers will make that shift anyway. And it is actually something that we discuss as we get closer and closer to the end of the year. So I feel like our teachers and principals really do have a lot of freedom to make those kinds of decisions. They know they don't have to just, have the kids sit inside and read or do math or whatever. So I'm not as concerned about that. Plus, we're also going to be gearing up for our experiential summer camps too. So that'll be another nice thing coming at right after we get out. So I know that they're probably already planning it at this point, even though I think it's a little early for it, but they're probably already thinking about it.
I think this discussion can tell you, John, and them that we support it. We 100% support it this year. 100%. Yeah.
Stephanie, we need to talk about when the next meeting is.
When is the next meeting? Good question. So let's see, April. Okay, well, third Monday in April is April break. And I hope to not be working on that day. I think it's actually a holiday. Is that?
It's a holiday. Yeah. Patriots Day.
Do we want to go for the 24th of April? It's the fourth Monday in April.
Sure.
Does that work for everybody?
I mean,
Okay, I will put that invite on the calendar for all of you. And that's the pathways conversation. So I think I'm pretty squared up for that one. I think Bruce will be back and he'll be able to give the tech update as usual. Anything else for that meeting?
I think he's fishing in a warmer climate right now. Is that correct?
He's probably having a great time right now.
He's having a great time right now. Yeah.
I mean, I would just say that I think it's fantastic to see what we're doing with some of these proficiencies, pathways, and relationships. I think a lot of our conversations in this committee are about the strengths in each of those areas. I, for one, would welcome hearing about some of the challenges and some of the areas for growth too. So if there are things that you're questioning that maybe are, hey, this is going okay, but maybe it could go a little bit better, or this is something that we really need to work on. I, for one, would welcome that level of conversation as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
I can't wait to bring you the bookworms conversation then.
Great.
We meet with that's our pilot committee, and I meet with them tomorrow. This will be the third meeting. But I will have some things to bring to you. I guess we don't have to wait until June, but I don't know. I can tell you right now, I don't know that we will have a final decision on adopting a program to implement for next year, which, I don't think that that's a bad thing either. I think that there are there are pockets of exploration that teachers and principals along with their teachers are doing right now around the science of reading. So, but I can definitely bring that information forward.
Thank you.
That'd be great.
All right. Well, very good. Well, thank you, everybody. I hope you have
All
the
right.
rest of your Monday afternoon.
Thank
Happy
you.
spring day.
Happy spring day. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Here.
Bye.